Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in Cougar Digest Podcast, episode 23, I believe. Yeah. I'm joined as always by Kevin. Joined this time also by Blake, who's been more active. How you guys doing today?
Pretty good, Rob. Obviously, coming off the win yesterday, have a lot of good feelings, a lot of good emotions. I didn't think that we were going to give Kansas that kind of a beat down, but which is exactly kind of what it was. I mean, that was, there was no mercy for them at all in yesterday's game. It was relentless throughout. Beautiful to see. Kansas still is a good team. The Blues of the Blue Bloods out there, so it's great to get that win and just secure that conference championship.
Yeah, what a big moment for sure. Blake, I know you were there as well. What was it like from your perspective?
The student section was incredible. We got there probably 3.5 hours before the gates open, which means 4.5 hours before the game started, and there was already a line ahead of us. So it was loud. It was awesome. I snuck a friend in from my hometown who's thinking about coming to UH. So I think that sealed the deal. So hopefully he'll be joining us next year. But yeah, I woke up Big 12 champions. Feels pretty good because I was told I was delusional for saying it was possible all off season. Delusions turned into reality.
They're going to spoil you there. Get your first year and the
Right.
basketball team wins a conference championship. Big 12.
Yeah, interesting stat for you, by the way. Houston is the only school ever that has won the Big 12 every single year they've been in it. So do with that stat what you please.
We're only on pace to win like 100 more, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was telling Rob yesterday before the game, I was a little worried about the game because of injuries and Kansas is still a good team. I wasn't expecting us to come out, basically from the beginning, never trailed, taking out Dickinson and a couple of the other players. Obviously not on purpose, but just hard play. And that's just, sometimes what happens on the court. But it was just good to see just an overall team effort, bench picking up after the last game. We got no points from the bench. This game, we got 27 from the bench, and we're going to need that moving forward as more play out of the bench because, we just can't run our starters out there 40 minutes every single game. So it was nice to see the bench get some time. Nice to see Elvin get a start for his last game.
Cool.
Just a lot of good feelings going around, and watching them cut down the nets after the game was kind of special at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's going to spoil Blake a little bit, but nonetheless, what a cool atmosphere, what a good moment, you know what I mean? And you can't say enough about the job Kelvin Sampson's done. I know everybody knows it and talks about it, but I mean, from where this place was when they hired Kelvin Sampson to where it is now is literally just night and day. So I don't see any reason why it won't keep rolling the same way as long as the Sampson family have their hands on it. So
right.
It would seem that for the foreseeable future, it's, pretty well set up. So happy for them, of course, to get to cut those nets down, obviously yesterday at the end of the game. Big moment for them. I know they're still focused on what's ahead of them, but this will be the interesting time. Could this be the year, so to speak, that they finally got the right group? I don't know, health-wise, probably they could be in better shape. Obviously, it would have helped a whole lot if Arsenault wouldn't have gone down. And then, of course, when they lost, who else went down?
Arsenault went down.
And then after
Jacob
him,
Taylor as well.
Well, yeah. So JoJo's out for the year, and there's another one too that's escaping my mind at the moment for some reason. But
Ooh.
tough in
Ramon
terms
Walker.
of it. Well, yeah, there you go, Ramon Walker. Tough
Oh yeah,
breaks for them in terms of that. So you would think it would be. I mean, if they wouldn't have suffered those injuries, for sure, uh, it would be interesting to see. Just, I mean, I think they already have. Thanks, Ben. I saw that. Uh, they've got tremendous odds out there. Everyone's saying, could this be a year Houston makes it run to? And I've said it before, and I know I've said it many times, but I feel like they're in that spot now where it's just whatever year. One of these years, they're going to get the right mix. They're going to have the right group. They're going to get the right draw in the tournament type thing. And this could be it. I don't know. It's tough. It's just so tough to say that. I can remember back when times it didn't just feel like I would ever say that. The Houston Cougars are going to win a national championship in anything the primary sports, but I don't know. We'll have to see how it all plays out. We'll see how they get through the Big 12 tournament. And we'll see what kind of draw they get. Obviously, I would guess they're not just aiming for a 1 seed, but probably even they got a realistic shot at the overall number 1 seed. So,
right.
Exciting times for sure, man. Everything's just about to get ramped up, and we'll see. We'll see if this is that year that Houston brings home the first national championship.
Well, Rob, every time that you want to kind of count this team out, whether it's injuries or poor shooting or just whatever the case may be, this team is just resilient. They're relentless, and that bench is talented. So it's that mentality with this culture, just next man up. Everybody's ready. Everybody practices hard, and everybody can get out there and can do their job the way that they practice it. So. Again, talking to you before the game yesterday about, I was worried a little bit, but when you just see the resiliency of this team, you can't count them out. And the experts, on ESPN and other channels are obviously talking up number 1 overall with Houston. They're getting a lot more talk, a lot more respect around the league, as they deserve it also. But this is just a resilient team, and you just can't count them out. I think with any game,
it feels weird to say that. I don't know what that is, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's my lifelong let down at the Houston Oilers hands all these years that make me like, I don't want to say it. Not that I don't want to say it and jinx it. Just, it's one of those. I don't know. I think it could very well happen, but it just doesn't seem real either at the same time. It just feels weird. So I don't know.
Well, something interesting Bill Self said after the game yesterday in his post-game conference. Someone reflected, one of them reflected a little bit about the first meeting on the 3rd of February where, they beat us by double-digit points. And he said the one thing that he did notice about the Houston team was in that second half, even though they were down by double digits, they never gave up. They still played hard, So that's the thing about this team. When you say resilient, they're not going to give up until the final buzzer.
Oh yeah, they're going to be a tough out for somebody along the way, several
sure.
somebodies. But yeah, what about you, Blake? I know they had some football recruits at the game as well. We talked about that on the board. You had made some graphics or whatever and put that out on Twitter and Instagram as well. Pretty impressive group of guys. Not a huge list, only about a dozen or so. But man, like 4 offensive tackles from the 25 class. And I've banged that drum for years on them needing to. That's how you know when they're finally getting traction, is when they're able to start landing and keep some of these quality tackles home. Couple really good wide receivers, Ja'Cory Watson, obviously. Some D linemen as well. What are your thoughts just on that group they had in? Obviously, you're starting to follow this a lot more closely as well. So what are your thoughts on those guys?
I think that was the perfect game you could bring a class of recruits into, because I mean the atmosphere was as good as it's been all year. Probably it was the best it's been all year. I'll say. I don't know if the attendance numbers absolutely align with that, because I know Texas was an attendance record, but it was just loud all game. Everyone played with a chip on their shoulder. And in the student section, actually, there were students with signs like recruiting certain guys to Houston. Like one said, "Stay home, Ja'Cory," and he posted about it. And
that's good. Hey, that's the type of thing student section's got to do. They've got to be knowledgeable like that And I know that you've done some work in just trying to help people be more knowledgeable, but I like that from a student section when you have their actual knowledge. You know, they're aware of the guys that are on, and the team is chasing, whatever it be, football or basketball. But yeah, that was a pretty cool deal. I saw the pictures.
Yeah, and Maurice Williams' dad actually, I posted about it on the Instagram, and he replied and was saying he was sitting by him, and he was like, "Wait, that's my name. That's really really cool." So like little things like that make impacts on recruits, and so I know for a fact Ja'Cory loved his visit. He's been here,
Yeah,
plenty of times. We're gonna be on his final short list. I really can't overstate how well this staff has done in the short period of time they've had to recruit.
night
I
and
mean, it
day.
feels like every single day there's another one coming, and this isn't the last visit. There's a huge one coming in this summer, and so
Yeah, a
yeah,
bunch of
I think
officials.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But I know Joseph Smith is one that's coming back for an official. I know Ja'Cory Watson's coming back for an official. So a lot of these guys who came here today, or not today, this weekend, already have their next visit scheduled. So we're getting competitive for all of these guys. And Ja'Cory Watson obviously is a guy who's been recruited by everybody. He
Yeah.
just took a visit to LSU not too long ago, and we're staying competitive in all these battles. So I have to tip my cap to the new staff. I mean, they've just done such a tremendous job with recruiting so far.
Yeah, I put it on the board as well. I'm pretty close to putting in a crystal ball for Ja'Cory. I think I want to talk to him after the visit and all that yesterday, but I think he probably stays home. I do, but we'll see how that one plays out. Obviously, when I do put the crystal ball in, I'll put a story up on it or whatever. So I'll make it known. But yeah, that's probably something else we need to get Blake rolling on too, man. Since you're going to be in the middle of all this, we'll probably get you added for crystal ball status.
Absolutely.
So that'd be good. I don't know about Kevin. He might be dangerous with that power.
Don't give me too much power. Yeah. You may come to regret it. But yeah, a lot of exciting times going on with the football program right now. But those things are just getting started. Obviously, basketball is first and center on a lot of people's minds right now, heading into tournament time. Going back to just talk about this team, and you talked about the Samsons and the impact they've had on this program. Let's talk a little bit about these seniors that we celebrated yesterday, starting with Jamal Shed and Jawan. I just start with them because those are the guys that have been, along with Elvin, those long-term guys that have been here the longest. Coach Sampson talks that you don't win championships with youth, you win it with experience. And this team has a lot of experience. And that's what I think gives us the edge. It's not just the defensive play that we have and the scores that we have, but that experience also. That stuff you can't buy. Well, I guess today, in this day and age, you can buy experience, right? But the rest of us have to be a little patient for it in order for it to evolve. But just what a pleasure just to watch this team all season long with that leadership. Just knowing what you have with Shed, with Jawan, with Francis, with Dunn, and with Cryer, with all these guys. It's been a great ride. So just a big, just shout out of great respect for the seniors on this team. And I mean, we can speculate who might come back, who might not. We don't know. They may not even know. Maybe Coach Sampson knows. I mean, who knows really at this point. But, we've got some more games to enjoy with these seniors. So it's not over yet, but, just what a great year that they've been able to give us.
It is interesting though that the dynamic that the NIL program brings, specifically on the basketball level. There's just not that many homes in the NBA in terms of spots. You know what I mean? It's different with football and so many teams, and you know what I mean. It's different because of the size of it, but the NIL in the basketball realm could legitimately be a better option for some guys that don't have bright NBA careers or don't want to. They could actually make the same amount of money probably or close to it just by coming back and dominating. Like again, if Jamal Shed were to come back next year, they found a way to pay him and make him happy to be back. I mean, think about adding that piece back to your team next year. That's just bonkers. I mean, again, you won't find there's nobody else in the country that you're going to go out and find that matches Jamal Shed, specifically what he means to this program too. So it'd be interesting though. But they have guys coming in. They're I've seen the speculation. We've seen it on the board. Obviously, talking about who everyone technically has money or has opportunity to come back. I know Pez Pesman was recently on a podcast and talked a little bit as well about on that front how much money wise it would take to get everybody back if they were to choose and all that good stuff. So one of those things, put a pin in it, so to speak, and it'll be worth monitoring moving forward. We'll see once this run comes to an end, wherever that may be. Then they'll have decisions to make, and I'm sure it'll get out soon thereafter.
Yeah, I think one senior that deserves to be.
But talk about adding,
I think
if you could bring Jamal Shid back, any of those guys, really, just the experience that all those guys have.
Bring back Cryer, Juwan, and Shed, and I mean, you got another championship caliber team coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you think. It'd be interesting to see, if knock on wood they were to make a run and win a championship this year. I mean, it's an interesting ask to hey, if you guys aren't probably going to get drafted, y'all want to come back and run it back one more time, one more year. We'll get y'all some NIL money and see if you can back to back it or not. It brings up a ton of questions, obviously, and very, very intriguing conversation for sure.
Yeah, well, basketball when it comes to NIL, I mean, I don't think that we really have a lot of concern with that. I mean,
no, they're humming along just fine on the basketball side over there. They are. Sunshine's doing a great job.
Play. You got more people to pay in football than you do in basketball.
Right.
So a lot easier, I think, to control that. But, Samson's also talked about, we're not going after those players that are looking for big paychecks at the same time. So they're not willing to go out there and spend that big time money that a lot of these players are demanding, or at least that's what he said, publicly. So, I never am concerned whenever it comes to recruiting basketball, when it comes to Kelvin and Kellen Sampson. I mean, they're probably some of the best, talent evaluators out there in the country. They know the kind of player that they're looking for. They know the kind of player that they want. So they don't play those games, and it's refreshing to see that we're just not out there just throwing money at any 5-star that is asking for it. So again, a lot of confidence in this staff and finding the right players for this team, regardless of NIL dollars.
Yeah, I think one of the seniors that also needs to be talked about, that is,
y'all keep talking.
I think one of the seniors that realistically could come back that needs to be talked about a little bit is Damian Dunn. Because I think he's really turned a corner, and I think it started against Oklahoma, which I'd probably get a little bit of flack for saying that because of the almost game sealing travel he had. But outside of that, he's finally, like, Kelvin joked about it whenever they were cutting the nets down, how he pump fakes at molecules, and he said the same thing. I believe after the Oklahoma game as well, that he likes to pump fake at molecules. But I mean, yesterday he just let it fly, and he missed a few shots, but it didn't destroy his confidence. He only really pump faked one time, and it ended in a bucket. So I think he's going to be a guy who, you talk about bench production, and I think that's what separates good teams from great teams. And you've seen that with Kansas. Kansas is a good team. They're not going to make a run this year in March. I think if you have them going far, have some kerosene ready. But
right.
They have no bench production. Damian Dunn came off the bench yesterday and dropped 12 points. We can get that every single night from him. It's scary on offense.
Well, Malik Wilson also is impactful off the bench as well, coming in and giving Shed some minutes whenever we need to get him out of the game. So that's another guy who, I would like to see return, but unfortunately, I don't see them all coming back. I think Elvin he's moving on to start his coaching career under Coach Sampson. But that leaves 5. But again, that's a big ask also. I don't know after, all the tournaments, what Shed's draft status is going to look like, what his prospects are going to look like. I don't know what kind of prospects Juwan might be looking at if he wants to do something different. I mean, you never know what's going on in these guys' heads. Dunn also and Wilson as well. So we can speculate a lot and all we want right now. I just don't think we're going to know anything until after the season actually plays out.
I will say at the end of the game when they were doing the trophy presentation, I thought Juwan Roberts was about to announce he was coming back. They put him on the mic, and the entire arena, including Emmanuel Sharp, were chanting "1 more year, 1 more year, 1 more year."
Yeah.
The thought crossed his mind, so maybe that's one to look out for. But yeah, I mean, you have. I think that kind of puts him in an awkward spot. I'm not surprised he didn't answer because there's still so much left in the season. Obviously, the Big 12 tournament coming up this week, and then March afterwards, and that's going to be sort of that's going to dictate the narrative around this team. Because right now, I think they've earned the respect of the country. I mean, they're an AP #1, and I don't think many people are arguing with it. I wouldn't be surprised if this upcoming poll after that beatdown, they receive every single first place vote. But March is what matters at the end of the day. And Houston, you can lose in first round of the tournament. You're still going to, in the Big 12 tournament, you're still going to be a 1 seed. But come March Madness, come tournament time, if this team doesn't at least get to the Final Four, there's going to be the narrative that Houston's just not built for March and that they always choke in March, even though it's observably not true. That'll be the narrative. So I think they know that. I think that's why they're not even entertaining the conversation about next year. And I think they're focused. I think they're gonna do really good. Regular season Big 12 champs is awesome, but still a lot more to go get. And I think they know that.
And I think you said a good word there, focus. This team is focused, and they know this job. They've been here before. So for them to win a conference championship, it's a great achievement. And it's obviously a goal they have at the beginning of the year, but they have more things on their mind right now. So for them, this is just another step in that process. And you could see it in how they respond to certain questions, that this is all business, and it's the next step to get to that next goal. So again, leadership and experience, that it comes with that. And that's why I think, in my mind, this team is more dangerous than I thought because of that experience. I was kind of questioning them a little bit because of those injuries, but again, that resiliency and that focus. And I do believe this team is the team to beat.
I'll say with the injuries, I mean, they've had the next man up mentality, but specifically they filled the gaps well. I mean, Damian Dunn is starting to turn a corner, like I said earlier, and Cedric Leith, he's not really doing anything on the stat sheet, but defensively he's been good. He slowed down Hunter Dickinson last night. He's been very good. Obviously, we're not getting JoJo Tugler out of him. On the offensive end, it's a pretty steep drop off, but defensively, he's going to do his job. I think the big key for us is just keeping Francis out of foul trouble. Oklahoma was a really difficult game. We were up, I think, 15 at one point and almost lost it because Juwan Roberts gets hurt and he's forced to play the 5 because Tugler fouls out early. That's the recipe. That's the recipe for disaster. Is you see Francis foul out, and one of these nagging injuries catches up to Juwan, who's now forced into playing a 5 role when he is a true power forward. And we were rolling a 4-guard set and we did it well. We scored 87 points, but that was the game that was a little bit concerning because it put out the blueprint. You get a team that gets hot like OU did, and they can do that consistently throughout a game. That's where it gets scary. However, I think Cedric Leith has been better. Like I've said a few times, Damian Dunn is turning a corner, and like you said earlier, Malik Wilson has been good all year. So if we can get that same production off the bench or anything in the stratosphere of that same production off the bench that we had last night throughout the tournament, I think we're going to do just fine.
I agree. And, Lott, again, we got to give him some time. The guy's new to basketball. He's new to this system. The guy got 18 minutes last night. I think his minutes are going to increase, in the conference tournament because they need him out there. They kind of have no choice but to play him more minutes. But the guy, he played really good defense yesterday. I mean, Kansas had one player in double figures. That was Dixon with 12 points, and he had to hit that 3 in order to get that. Towards the end of the game before he actually got hurt. Lott, he can hold his own with second unit players. I think he's a big body to get out there and get between them and the basket, and that's what they need whenever Francis is in foul trouble or needs a rest, or when Roberts is in any trouble. Whether it's rest or just whatever the case may be. I mean, obviously he's got that hurt hand still. So he needs some time to heal up a little bit. But yeah, I have no problem with running Lott out there. The more minutes he gets, just the better he's gonna become.
True. I think the big value, obviously, them getting that the first and second round buys in the Big 12 tournament too, to buy themselves, a little bit more healing time. So, yeah, I don't know. Other than shed size, I don't know why I mean, I've never been good on the basketball front in terms of being able to, yeah, he's a pro, this guy's a pro. Really, I think the only knock against Shed is his size. Like NBA point guards aren't that short.
Well, I think his shooting also comes into play.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got NBA defense written all over him. He's got NBA point guard and assists written all over him. But it's his shooting, which is kind of holding him back a little bit. He's not the scorer that Cryer is. So I think that's a knock on him right now. But that doesn't mean he can't improve. And I told you that before the game yesterday, Rob, that you put Jamal in NBA spread offenses, and the guy's going to create. The guy's going to have, he's going to get assists. He's going to make things happen. So I do think that a team could, take a flyer on him, especially a team that has, winning record, a playoff team, and he's a guy that they can develop for the future. I don't see him graded out as a first round pick just yet, but let's see what he does in the tournament, because we all know that the tournament can make or break, draft prospects at the same time also. You can see a lot of guys get surprised, get surprised in the first round from what they show in the tournament. So we should just reserve for, how he plays and how he looks. But the guy's the best player on the best team in the country. It's hard to overlook him.
Very true.
Yeah.
The only other knock with him is his age. He's been in college for a while. He's 21. The kind of sweet spot for draft picks is normally 19 and 20. So I think that's going to hamper him a little bit. And I think, people forget, I brought this up a few times, but that he had declared for the draft. So did LJ Cryer, and they both pulled out. Cryer transferred and Shed came back. So I think that's a knock, but 21, obviously he's not, Zach Edey. He's not running around with retirement looming, but so I think he can absolutely, at the minimum, make a roster for sure, at least on a G League team for sure. There's a place in the NBA for him, and I think he can be a very good developmental prospect. I think he can end up being like a smaller Drew Holiday. The defense, though, the one thing that I've heard, from the media, scouts say is that a lot of teams already have their scorer. If that's what you're good at, most teams don't want you. They want somebody who can pass. They want somebody who plays defense. They want, they want Jamal Shed. So.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't go get somebody like that in the first round all the time, but there is a place for him in the NBA. I'm sure of it.
What else were we going to talk about? Spring ball. Obviously, we've been out. The football had kicked its spring practices off this past week with 3 before spring break next week, and I was out there. Blake was able to make it out Friday as well, and. Yeah, I mean, I said it on the board after the first practice, but and Blake, I know will agree because we talked about it when he was out there. But the difference in everything going on out there is just night and day from the other staff, and really from a lot of staffs, to be honest with you. No music like they, from years past. There was always music going out there, and that's no big deal either way. Just it's noticeable when it's not there because it's been there now for quite a while. Every coach has done that. So, but there's so much attention to detail out there, and they're really pushing these guys and stressing to them their effort and all the little details that they're making sure that they're doing everything right along the way, finishing everything out. They don't allow people to walk around out there. You got to leave your helmet on, keep your mouthpiece. I mean, it sounds silly sometimes, like some basic stuff, but I mean, it's not something that was really pushed that much in the past. And I think, again, like I said to someone I was talking to out at practice on Friday, I don't know just yet what, is Willie Fritz the X's and O's? Is he a genius? Or you know what I mean? But I can tell you what's not going to happen. The team's going to be ready. They're going to be prepared. They're going to fight, and they're going to play hard, and they're not going to quit. And they're not going to get tired out by the end of the game. They're doing a good job of pushing them, and everybody's really working on stamina and this and that and finishing out all the plays the whole time. So it'll be a disciplined football team. We'll just have to see, you know what I mean? How the pieces fit together with with Willie Fritz and the OC and DC and all that stuff. How does it come together once the actual football starts? But I came away very impressed after just the first 3 practices, just the way they handled themselves and the way they were running the practice. Coach Fritz is just constantly moving around out there. he doesn't quit. He's jumping from one position group to the next, and he gets over there and grabs a guy and starts telling him something or whatever, and then goes off to the next group. He'll hop in and grab somebody after a rep and just tell them about this, or correct something that he saw, and just constantly moving around. Though he is full of energy for sure. So
Yeah.
what'd you think? I know, Blake, you're only out there Friday, but you obviously got your first good taste of it, and yeah, like I said, it's noticeable.
Yeah, they're a scrappy bunch. I mean, they especially like the one-on-ones. That was the most fun I've had watching football in a really long time. They just get after it. One guy in specific, I brought him up to you a few times because he just kept making plays. Was Latrell McCutcheon. He didn't find a home at OU, and I know he transferred to USC, but it was the same staff. That was when Lincoln and Alex Grinch both moved over. So he didn't find a home with that staff. And now he's in a place that I think he fits a lot better. And he was getting after it. The other guy was Mekhi Muse taking first team reps at kick return, and that was what I figured he was being brought in for. When Matthew Golden left and hit the portal, and we talked about it. I said he looks like Deuce Vaughn. He's built like a running back, and he's out there
built like a
moving
running back,
very very fast. Yeah,
very slippery, man. He's looked good all week. I saw him make plays every day I was out there. And then obviously Latravian, younger brother too of Latrell McCutcheon, he's going to be a good one too. He shows flashes last year, and he had a couple good plays on there Friday when you were out there.
Yeah, I will say the transfers we brought in, the one thing I noticed about most of them, short of Mekhi Muse a little bit because he's on the shorter end, was their size. Corey Platt Jr. is huge, probably our biggest linebacker. Malik Carr.
Yeah,
men that big should not move that fast. That guy's an NFL tight end. He was walking with a defensive or with an offensive lineman back from a play, and he looked like an edge rusher. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I thought when I saw him the first day, I was like, "Who's that?" Who's that guy? That dude's big. That's a big old edge rusher, and the single digit doesn't help either. He wears 6, I believe, and so I saw him the first day, and then when I looked up and realized who he was, I was like, "Oh wow, that's good grief!" Now I see what the hype was about. Yeah, he's really big dude, and he moves very well for his size.
Yeah, one thing that stuck out to me is, there's chippiness. It's football. It's always going to happen. But at the end of the practice, they all came together. They had, 11 on 11. We're not allowed to record or take photos, so you're just watching it. They had, offense on one sideline, defense on the other sideline. But after 11 on 11, again, it's football. It's going to get chippy. They mixed it up. They got back together, and every little bit of beef was squashed. So it's a really competitive environment, but it's not like Kentucky where the videos are coming out of players fist fighting in the locker room and anything like that. It's like, it feels like everybody there wants to be there. They want to compete and they want to get better, and everybody, it's really fun to watch, especially whenever it's competition. One-on-ones. I know, Boogie Johnson was being guarded by Latrell Lenny, and it was fun to watch. They were getting after it. Sam Brown also, his footwork just looks incredible. I'm excited to see what this offense looks like. We were talking about it a little bit, but I feel like you losing Matthew Golden is something you never want to have happen. But Donovan's weapons may be better this year. Across the board, you return Parker Jenkins, who will be good in the pass game. You give Malik Carr. Sam Brown coming back is huge. I probably would have been more upset losing Sam Brown than losing Matthew Golden, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I think Boogie Johnson is a guy who could take a really big step forward this year. He looked fantastic.
Yeah, they again, it'll come down to the line. We'll talk about that more. We'll dig into it more as it goes along between now and then. But the offensive line will be important to that. If they can get solid play up front, then I think they've got a lot of really good weapons. We're going to have to see how the quarterback situation plays out between now and fall. But a lot of questions to be answered still. But just even in the first few practices, a lot of positivity to take away. Like you said, they compete really hard against each other out there, and they take a lot of pride. Each unit does. The defense takes a lot of pride, and so does the offense. And they're, talking trash like you would expect out there to each other. And I mean, it's an intense situation in terms of their competitive level, especially at the end there when you get to 11-on-11. But like you said, I thought that was a good touch. I don't know in this grand scheme of what it means, but I did like the fact at the end make sure they all come back together, squash the beef, as you said, and kind of everybody shake hands and all that good stuff at the end, and then they, obviously the coach closes out the practice, talks talks to him, whatever, brings up whoever needs to come and talk to the nutritionist or Kurt Hester, whoever it might be that comes up. I've seen a few NFL guys are out there too. Joey came out Friday. Atlanta Roberts was out earlier in the week. Cody Rusty was out there on the first day as well with the Landon. So I know that they've said many times they're going to make a big push and want to try to bring former players back and have them around. And Joey even said, I think you're still with us, Blake, when he said he was going to. Joey said he was going to come back out there and bring some more guys too with him, type thing. So he stays in touch with a lot of the players, former players. So that's something that's kind of been a thing of his for a couple of years now. He's told me how much he wants to try to get involved in getting former players into a more organized situation where they can come back and be a part of the team. And when I told you were there, I believe when I told him too, he was pretty excited about the opportunity for the players to come back for the spring game and sit with the current players in their position meetings or whatever. So that's one of those deals, you know. He mentioned to us whenever Coach Fritz, you know, I did what I was trying to do, and I introduced him to Wes because I know Wes handles a little bit more of that in terms of the he would probably be who's going to handle that for organizing former players or whatever. But I thought it was a good touch that, you know, Willie saw him and came over and introduced himself and talked with him for a few minutes. And even Joey was like, that's crazy. Like, that's just odd. He said the last guy walked past and shook his hand and kept going. And that was about all he got out of that. But, yeah, you could just tell that, I mean, like I said, I don't know how it's going to play out X's and O's wise, how successful this team's going to be. But I'm impressed with just about everything I've seen so far from Coach Fritz. He's very – very he has a lot of attention to detail oriented, and you know, I'm impressed definitely after just a few practices. So we'll see, man. Could be bright things ahead, maybe.
Change is sometimes good. Change is sometimes needed, and change sometimes can give you new energy. So I think that's what we're experiencing right now. Is we're experiencing new energy with this team. We're experiencing a new level of positivity, a new level of access. And we're just beginning. So, you know, a lot more to come.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I like that they're going to, like I said, they're going to try to do their best to bring some of the former players back. I think that's good for recruiting. I think that's good for just the team bond in general. And, you know, these guys that have gone on, some go on to the league, but a lot of them go on to get in the coaching ranks. And so that's always, yet again, you never want to miss an opportunity to have a good relationship with high school coaches. And, you know, it seems like the staff already does that in general, but with as many former players that I can think of that moved on now are in the high school coaching ranks, what a great tool, you know, just to have them around the program, and that'll pay off for you somewhere along the way. So I think it's good. Just like basketball, you know, basketball's, just to swing back to that, it's become such a, you know, a popular event in the city, obviously with the success they're having, but the people that are out, you have the former players that come back when they can. Obviously, All-Star Weekend was going on. They had the whole group back. But again, it's become like last night. Again, Peyton Turner was there. Saw Joey up there. Case and his family were there.
Yep.
I didn't set eyes. Was Tank? Did you say Tank was out there?
Tank was there. Yeah.
Was there.
CJ Stroud with him or no?
No, Stroud wasn't with him. Tank was there.
Okay.
Who else was there? Olajuwon was there. Obviously, Nance was there.
Yeah.
You know,
we saw Nance outside when we were coming in. I was walking in with Mark Berman was up there, and he's. I'm talking to Mark, and you know, knowing him the way he is, of course, he looks over my shoulder behind me. He's like, "Is that Jim?" And sure enough, Jim Nance was standing down there, and so he walks over to say hi to him. He obviously knows him. And it was kind of cool meeting him. Obviously, Jim Nance is a guy that everybody's familiar with, but such a nice guy. Obviously, everything I've ever seen with him, he's always just super, super nice guy. So that was kind of a cool little, before I ever got in the building, got to see him out in the parking lot. So, yeah, that was great atmosphere again. Just the atmosphere to have that go down the way. I know Cougar fans are walking on cloud nine today, getting to see them cut the nets down. And what a, you know, just phenomenal. You can't pay for atmosphere like that. Like you said, Blake, having those recruits at that atmosphere was a great call.
Yeah. And a little extra tidbit about the Jim Nance event. I forgot who told me this, but apparently he didn't know he was getting a banner on the wall. He knew they were honoring him, and he knew they were going to do something at halftime for him. But that was just a complete surprise to him, which just makes that moment just a little bit sweeter. And yeah, it's good. It kind of goes in the same vein as you want good relationships with your former players. You want them with your alumni too,
Yeah.
because that's what really drives your brand as a university. And Kelvin talked about it a little bit after the game. He was saying we're a damn good school, and we've been a damn good basketball program, excuse me, for a while. And not the last few years. So like that's what drives the needle, or moves the needle, is keeping your alumni involved. Jim Nance called this the best university on planet Earth. Stuff like that matters. People see
Yeah.
that. People respect what Jim Nance says, and when Jim Nance says UH is the best school on earth, people are a little bit more likely to believe that than if I were to say it, for example.
and the cool thing
He holds
about
a bit
having
more sway than you, yeah.
exactly
Yeah,
the cool thing about having that
lot.
success though, man, it makes you have success like that, and it makes your famous alumni a little bit more eager to wear something U of H or something and say something. That's my Cougs or whatever. If the programs aren't successful, they're not going to brag about it as much or whatever. But those things all go hand in hand. Like you said, it just builds a better brand nationally. Makes people maybe they didn't know about U of H very much or weren't very knowledgeable or aware of what it's like down there. Just like you talked about bringing your friend Blake down to who's considering coming to U of H. I mean, what an introduction for him, so to speak, to get to see that yesterday. So maybe you seal the deal on getting another one in.
Yeah, I'll put my crystal ball in for him. Don't worry.
Yeah, there you go. See.
But I will say
what else?
that
Anything else we're missing that we wanted to touch on, Kevin? I know we kind of ran it down, but I don't want to cut it short by any means, but still.
I was kind of curious as to what you guys thought how this conference tournament might play out. I mean, we don't play until Thursday, 2:00. I can't remember the bracket that we're in. I can't remember if we're playing the winner between Tech or I can't remember which bracket that we're in. I kind of see this conference tournament as, again, preparation for the NCAA tournament. I don't think you play the games to win, right? And I don't think Coach James is going to go out there you're looking to lose any game, but he obviously wants to not be limping into the NCAA tournament. Right. I could see the bench getting a lot more minutes, just like in yesterday's game, to start out this conference tournament. And the deeper that we go, you might see those starters getting back those minutes because yes, we're regular season conference champions, but it's nice to have that extra trophy in the trophy case also, right, to win the conference tournament. But I could definitely see Samson playing the bench more minutes through the conference tournament just in preparation for the NCAA, just so our starters just aren't so worn down because they're starting to get that way. And I was a little worried after the last game against Cincinnati whenever we, again, we went 8 deep and got almost nothing from the bench in that last game where this was obviously a much better outcome yesterday with the bench, would get 27 points. I think they got about 15 boards also, several assists, Shed again with almost a triple-double. We know what we're going to get with Shed. We know we're going to get with Juwan and Cryer, but it's the bench is where we need to figure out just how they're going to be able to help us tournament season now.
Yeah, I will say, I think we got the perfect draw. We play so our side of the bracket, it's Oklahoma State versus UCF. Winner of that will play BYU. Winner of that will play Texas Tech, and winner of that will play UH. So that means that Baylor, Iowa State, and Kansas are all on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah,
you were worried about
that. You mentioned that yesterday, Blake.
Yeah, BYU is a little bit tricky, but even Kansas, like they're banged up right now. Kevin McCullough's dealing with injuries. Dickinson is done for the year. It sounds like. Still not a team you want to face. They can still get hot. Furphy's still a great shooter. I mean, they still have weapons. DeJuan Harris has been there for, he's enjoyed a nice 18-year basketball career. He has experience. He's been really, really, really good. You don't want to face him. BYU could cause problems, but not having to play either Iowa State, Baylor, or Kansas into the Big 12 championship if Houston were to make it is huge. I think that's the best thing you could ask for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And BYU is a team that we walked into Provo and beat, so I can't say that that's a game that you're really you have an upset penciled in per se. Tech is the same way. It wasn't competitive when we played them last, and it was in Houston, sure, but the X's and O's aren't overly close there. I think this is the best draw we could get. We get a chance to, if TCU were to make it out. Excuse me, I said we'd play the winner of that. OU and TCU are also on our side of the bracket, so they could make it. If TCU were to win a game, we would play them first, and that's a chance to right the last wrong of the season.
Yeah,
that would be the last loss to avenge, and I think that would be awesome. Win the Big 12 and beat everyone.
Good point.
No one on your resume.
Really good point. Yeah, we have one more team to settle a score with, and hopefully we get a chance to play them in this tournament. Yeah, I like the way you laid that out. That was a really good way of doing that. Yeah,
appreciate it. I'll have to be rooting against OU, which will 5-year-old me will hate me, but
5-year-old me hates this.
It comes from a good place.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, anybody, anything else that we ought to touch on? You think that's probably about it for this go round?
I think we covered everything. I mean, obviously we got more spring practice to cover. We got more tournaments to cover. So I mean, we'll be back on, I'm sure, sometime next week. Once we know who our matchup is, get a little bit more coverage on the. Well, no, I guess they're not having spring practice.
They're off this next week for spring break.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so it's all basketball for the next week, at least. So I say we jump back on once we know who our opponent is, and maybe do a little preview for that game. So maybe Wednesday, maybe something
Thursday, something like that. I guess they play Thursday, right?
2. They play Thursday at 2, so it might be a little close, but we'll know Wednesday evening who that opponent's going to be.
Okay.
So I'm all up for a show for Wednesday if you guys are.
Yeah. I'm in.
I want to say one more thing. One more thing that I think deserves to be mentioned. Now, I'll be brief with it. Number 1, Texas came into town for softball not too long ago. We lost yesterday, but we stole a game from them. First one in the series. We beat them, which will take away their number 1. And I think, pretty good first conference win for the ladies on the softball team.
Absolutely. Started the weekend off well Friday night that way. Yeah.
Blake, I'm glad you said that, because it seems like a lot of the sports that we have are competing well in the Big 12. Baseball is playing well right now. Obviously, we know we get with the volleyball team has played well. The tournament. Swimming and diving has always been good at UH, and I believe that they're doing well in that too. Track is doing well. So, the other sports are stepping their game up also, coming up, leveling up in the Big 12. So it's good to see it across the board that, we're competitive in this conference. So you bring up a really good point to mention some of these other sports that are tied to the university or, they're holding their own against, what we perceive as being better competition than what we came from. So good point.
True. All right. Well, until next time, we will be on board. Y'all be sure to check out the board. Follow Blake on Twitter and Instagram, whatever. Follow myself as well. And we'll see you on the boards until we see you back here next time.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate y'all.